afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Um,
Feel free to share your screen. Okay, when you're ready.
okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brick Tenorio. I'm the pre-sales manager for Kaspersky Philippines, specializing in enterprise solutions. So for this afternoon, I would like to discuss and have a talk on regarding how the Kaspersky approach on identifying, analyzing, and quickly responding to advanced threats or evasive threats. So I would also like to tell you that also one of my key objectives in this talk is also to discuss our security in a simple yet effective way. So what I'm saying is security isn't always need to be complex. So it can be deployed simply, and yet very effective and accurate. Okay, let me start with just our mission here in Kaspersky. So the company's objective is simple but very direct: to build a safer world. And by building a safer world, along with that is becoming a global leader in cybersecurity. As you may know, here even in the Philippines, we are well known when it comes to endpoint security or anti-malware technology. But right now, we are now evolving. For more than 20 years, we continue to develop and evolve into a global leader in cybersecurity. We are now enhancing our solution portfolio, ranging from endpoint protection platform to EDR to threat intelligence. Right? Because of this, it becomes a possibility to bring more opportunities for each and every one of us. To start with, let's bring on an endless possibilities and bring on a safer tomorrow. So let me start first with the rising trends of cyber attack services. As you may know, even here in the Philippines, we are bombarded by a lot of cybersecurity attacks. So right now, the latest is from the SNR ransomware attack, where there is more than 20,000 affected users, where their personal informations were given. Also, Kaspersky sees more attacks on financial institutions, financial systems, primarily on cryptocurrency. 2 years ago, or last year, there have been attacks on different education industry, ranging from web attacks and ransomware attacks. So what I'm just saying is, as our technology, as our cybersecurity technology evolves, also our attackers and hackers evolves. They become better and more organized than before. Because of that, there have been a range of advanced persistent threats seen in the previous years. So not only in the Philippines, but also in the rest of the world. So as you can see, Southeast Asia, Philippines, there have been thousands of already attacks. And let's discuss first regarding the current cybersecurity landscape. So as I mentioned, threats are increasing, threats are becoming more complex. So even different sizes of companies, SMBs, before it's only the targeted attacks are solely, or the attacks are solely on the big enterprises such as telecommunications and financial institutions. Right now, complex threats are seen everywhere. So not only on, also on smaller sectors. So the landscape right now is becoming more flexible. So the rise of advanced attacks, the needs of advanced protection. It is also said it is somehow that their perimeter security is somehow dissolving. So I've been proposing next-gen firewalls for years, and my experience on next-gen firewall mostly focused on our internal users and internal servers. So since most of us are now working from home, working outside, so we also need to provide a good endpoint protection to invest more on our endpoint protection. As you may see, perimeter is now dissolving, so the network security is somehow not becoming more secure on our endpoint since we are outside of the organization. We also have to discuss the different threats and countermeasures. So as I mentioned before, we also need to provide a simple yet effective security. So not all resources and not all security are applicable to different organizations and different threats. You can check in the slides that it is divided into three. We have the commodity threats, we have the evasive threats, and we have the targeted attacks. For commodity threats, these are just the basic blocking of our endpoint security, even in our firewall. So the focus of on these commodity threats or threats that are known and easy to prevent is to block the maximum possible number of threats. Usually, our protection for commodity threats are our traditional endpoint protection platform and can be handled and deployed even by a small IT department only. Now here comes our evasive threats. So for evasive threats, they are now trying to bypass your traditional endpoint protection platforms. So because of that, you might not need also to enhance on your endpoint security, but also enhance on your resources. Because evasive threats, they might bypass your traditional protection, and because of that, you might need to have more visibility on these types of threats. And this visibility and investigation can be handled even by a small IT security team or a dedicated security specialist. So we not only enhance our existing protection, but we also enhance our resources. Then last, but definitely not the least, are targeted attacks. So targeted attacks, a good example of this one is your advanced persistent threats. With a long attacks, a long series of attacks, and they are hard to detect even with our best protection capabilities. So in order to counteract on these targeted attacks, there is a need of focus on deep investigation, automated and manual threat hunting. So usually, not only as dedicated security, not only an IT department, but an already experienced and knowledgeable SOC team. So in short, for different threats, there is an applicable countermeasures. So what we're saying is if you want to have protection on targeted attacks, evasive threats, then you must need more visibility on your endpoint protection platform. Convergence of endpoint protection platform is now a trending topic. Right now, I will discuss two expressions or two misconceptions when it comes to endpoint security. So currently, we are now here in the Philippine market. These expressions are very visible. Based on my experience, I encountered this so many times with different clients that they have sometimes confusion when it comes to endpoint security, endpoint protection platform, and EDR. So let's start first with the expression antivirus is dead is not true. So antivirus is dead, so it is not true. Endpoint protection platform, anti-malware engine is still very important as a foundation protection against common threats. In my previous slides, you might see or you might remember the commodity threats. So antivirus, the traditional anti-malware engine, is still the fast way on counteracting to this type of threats. And with this anti-malware engine, the main point is building complex endpoint protection with this anti-malware engine. We improve automatic threat prevention and we improve it using advanced detection and response to complex threats. So anti-malware, the term anti-malware is not dead. So we just need to improve it with a different complex endpoint protection platform. The second thing is EDR replaces your endpoint security or your endpoint protection platform. It is also not true. EDR converges with your endpoint protection platform. So with your endpoint security that is carrying the blocking the prevention of infections, you combine it with the EDR for the incident investigations and responses, EDR responses. Okay, so in short, we converge it. We converge our endpoint security with EDR to have a complete endpoint protection platform. So because of that, the anti-malware engine is not dead, but we improve it. We continuously improve it with different detection technologies. At the same time, EDR, we converge it with our endpoint security to come up with a complete endpoint protection platform. So because of that, we demand the threat landscape on counteracting these different threats demands a new approach. We have on the mitigation and prevention side, we have the detection side, and we have on the find or threat hunting or response level. So for prevention systems, it's just your traditional way or the anti-malware way of preventing threats. So this one is automatic. When we say automatic, when we deployed it, configured the policies, then your endpoint security will automatically provide a real-time protection against these different threats. So just to stop infection, to stop the execution of these different attacks. So how about if, for example, it is all, even though we provide or we have the best detection rate when it comes to protection, not everything is secured 100%. So there might need to provide you a more visibility on complex threats and to have a threat hunting and incident response for threats that were able to bypass your protection system. So here comes the EDR. So for EDR, we will have more visibility, we will have more detection and provide us the proper way of incident response to these different threats. So usually these are for unknown threats. Our response is mostly for unknown threats. So the threat landscape today, particularly on the endpoint level, is converging your endpoint protection platform with our endpoint detection and response. So this is now the new way or the new approach when providing endpoint security to our devices. Here comes our maturity-based approach. So it is very important for us not only to provide the best security or the best endpoint security for our clients, but also to provide them with the right solution. So it is not, I said that complex is not always the best solution. The complete features are not always the best solution, but how we propose the solution that will fit into your requirements, but will also fit to your resources, to our capabilities. So I separated it into our maturity-based approach. For lack of dedicated security specialist, when we say lack of dedicated security specialist, there might be just an IT department or a security function within the IT department, ranging from different distributed offices. These are our advised solutions. We have the sandboxing, the endpoint security, and the managed detection and response. So as you may notice, all of this, once configured, they will perform automatically. So I'm not saying not everything is automatic, but it will provide you an automatic response. Let's say for endpoint security. So we all know that in the anti-malware or endpoint security device, a real-time protection is already applied once we configured it. It will automatically block. For sandboxing our endpoint security, it supports our endpoint security when detecting evasive threats. While for the managed detection and response, it provides us the management from SOC that will monitor and oversee the behaviors of our endpoint infrastructures. So basically, for lack of dedicated security specialists, these are the solutions that will be helpful to you. Then on this, I can also say that this is somehow on the lack of dedicated security specialists, but at least there is an expertise development, or we are now trying to improve our security resources within our company. So example, an information security within an IT department, or there is a small security department. So we can now start with the basic EDR. So our basic EDR here is our EDR Optimum. There have been different EDR solutions you can see in the market. But honestly speaking, for EDR, we call it as a tool. And a tool will not work if you will not use it. So it's very important for us that there must be an expertise or an information security within the IT department that will use this EDR to investigate threats and provide an immediate response. So we designed this for less mature organizations that are not yet capable on handling a more expert solution. Then lastly, establish security practice, or we can easily say that it is on the expert level already. So the resources are fully staffed, and there is already an existing SOC, CERT team, threat hunting group that are capable on handling and doing proper incident response and threat investigation. Usually, what we provide are our expert solutions of EDR or our NDR, our network flow analysis. Then if we combine it with other layers of our technology, such as email security and so email security and network security, we will have the extended detection and response. So extended detection and response not only focuses on providing a detection and response solution to our endpoint level, but to multiple layers of technology, such as your network, your email, your servers, and your web servers, etc. So we can provide an XDR solution if you have this type of resources. Then another thing is your managed detection and response. Another thing is it is not only for lack of dedicating security specialists. We can still offer our MDR to the EDR Optimum and EDR or expert solutions. It is not usually, I'm just saying that we can already use it for other solutions, but usually it is applicable to our endpoint security, because MDR is needed for enterprise or medium enterprise clients that will need to have an advanced security visibility, but they don't have the handle of EDR. So MDR is the applicable solution. So if we combine this, our maturity-based approach, we can consolidate all of it to have an all-in-one protection that we call it as our integrated endpoint. As you may notice, our integrated endpoint security is a multi-layered solution on the endpoint level. First, your foundation product, the endpoint security for protection, combined with EDR to perform visibility and response across all your endpoints. You can improve the endpoint protection platform using our on-premise sandbox. Then lastly, all of these products can be integrated to our service, managed detection and response, to have a complete proactive threat hunting and guided response. So first is the foundation. So almost all, not only Kaspersky, we have foundation products that we will usually start with this one, then we will improve to different products or different solutions. And for us, the foundation product is our next generation endpoint security. So our endpoint security, let's define the next gen. So there have been different descriptions of next gen, but let's take a look at on two perspective from Gardner and Forrester. So let's start first with the first perspective or first description of next gen. So it is a non-signature malware detection solutions. Typically use one of several techniques to prevent detections, meaning non-signatures malware detection. So not basing on our threat signatures, that is our traditional anti-malware. So it can be system hardening, behavioral detection, intrusion prevention system, usually on the behavioral level. On Kaspersky perspective, we not only improve our non-signature malware detection, but we also consider provide importance to our signature-based protection. So we also improve on both sides. Then not only on the technology, but also on the responsibilities of your endpoint security. So for the first is it's basing on the technology, non-signature and signature. For the second one is on the responsibilities or the objectives of your endpoint security. For the objective of your endpoint securities, must be able to have the attack prevention, which is under endpoint security, detection, and remediation, which can be handled by. So what I'm saying is for the next gen endpoint security, we look it on the two perspectives. On the technology side, its capability to detect threats. On the second side, its capability to handle the prevention, detection, and response. So in Kaspersky, we value these two perspectives. We value this in our foundation product. So in every foundation, there is a support. There is a supporting solution. And for the supporting solution of our endpoint security, we can deploy the sandbox or the sandbox to enhance the endpoint security's prevention capabilities. So I just need to highlight two key advantages of sandboxing, of Kaspersky's sandboxing. So first is it is deployed, and we usually recommend this one deployed in an isolated environment. So when we say deployed in isolated environment, no connection to your production network. So it is a good practice that we deploy our sandbox in this manner. Remember, in our sandbox, we deploy our malware. We deploy a file that may contain malware or unknown file, can be a ransomware. And if it crosses your production network, then there might be a breach or an infection. So it is our advantage that it is deployed in an isolated environment. Second is its primary job. The primary job of Kaspersky is to increase the detection against previously unknown malwares and zero-day exploits. So very easy to grasp. Sandbox has many descriptions as this kind of technologies, but its objective is really to increase the detection of our endpoint security. So just to have the highlights of our sandbox, how it works in a simple manner. So our source of objects or for analysis will come from our endpoint, and our endpoint security for business, our next gen endpoint security. Then telemetry or that file will be sent to our test virtual machines for emulation. And for this emulation, we have different characteristics. It has the counter evasion techniques or as our anti-evasive malware, several emulation modes for more accuracy, and user actions modeling. So with that, we will have on the analysis, on the testing on the different virtual machines. We will deploy it there, or the endpoint security will deploy it there. It will provide a verdict, and that verdict will be sent to our Kaspersky security network. Another thing is it will also we can also do automatic indicators of compromise generation and infrastructure scanning. So we can see if if there are indicators of compromise of this device with of these objects with other solution and devices, then we can see. Then provide an automatic prevention. Send to Kaspersky endpoint security to prevent it. For example, there is a malware, so it will tell the endpoint security to block it. Third component is the tool. So I often highlight this one as the tool. EDR is a tool. I always say to my client, please treat your EDR as a tool for investigation, for additional visibility on our incidents. So I'm just saying that one of our advantage is we have the simple EDR tool and we have the EDR tool for our expert security. So for EDR Optimum, you can define this as a simple EDR tool designed for protecting against complex modern day threats in the face of limited resources. So we highlight these words, a simple EDR tool designed for protecting complex modern threats against complex modern threats in the face of limited resources. So for the detection, what can it do? We can see incident artifacts from our incident card, from our EDRO reporting card. Then we can also see the attack spread path from our incident card. Contains provide us a visibility and indicators of compromise. So one important thing of our EDR is scanning for indicators of compromise. So when we say indicators of compromise, these are evidences or breadcrumbs of an attack. So there might be indicators of an attack or a compromised device. So it is part of our detection capability or a visibility capability. For the response in every detection, in every results, root cause analysis, in every root cause analysis, there must be a corresponding response. So the response from your EDR, these are the examples. Host isolation, you can isolate the host, you can quarantine the file, prevent execution or execution prevention, critical area scanning, and process termination. So I'm saying is in every response, in every root cause analysis we do in our EDR, there must be a corresponding response. So just a brief overview of our EDR. So the EDR, we have different agents deployed in our device to gather telemetry, and those telemetry will be sent to our Kaspersky Security Center for analysis. So for that analysis, for that telemetry, we can create an incident information card, as you may see on the right image below, an incident card, where as a security administrator or a small security team can do root cause analysis basing on the attack spread path, basing on the IOC, basing on the different accident artifacts. So we can come up with a result from root cause analysis. And out of those results, out of those IOC scans, we can have an automatic response, an active responses. So to remediate the findings and the threats. Then for the fourth one, under our integrated endpoint, we have what we call the service. So the service is the managed detection and response. So what advantage of managed detection response over other our solutions is that it can be it is flexible. It can be for the lacking of resources, even up to the with complete resources. Same time, managing detection and response is very helpful on providing a more advanced threat detection, a more efficient monitoring, and a better response and remediation to different threats. So let's start with advanced threat detection. So for advanced threat detection, it is handled by our Kaspersky SOC experts. So for the Kaspersky SOC experts with detection on hundreds of threat hunting rules, basing on the threat intelligence. So they use threat hunting rules when doing incident investigation. That is based on our threat intelligence. And most of them have more than 20 years of experience in cybersecurity. So for example, you have your existing SOC. You want to have another SOC that will manage our MDR, so we can have the managed detection and response. Efficiency. So when it comes to efficiency, we can monitor, or the SOC experts will monitor the events, the behaviors 24/7 basis. So they analyze all suspicious actions and reports only real incidents, avoiding false positives. So not only is they use sophisticated and efficient threat hunting rules, they also monitor your infrastructure 24/7. Then lastly, response and remediation. So all incidents reported and created by your Kaspersky SOC will have recommendations on how to properly respond to these detected threats. So probably there might be a remote controlled pre-approved response. So it is also supported. But in short, for response and remediation, for every incident created, SOC will provide an effective and an accurate recommendations on how to mitigate these threats. For example of an MDR use case. So actually this is from our testing. So there is a ransomware, what we're showing is a ransomware attack scenario. So you can see incidents created by SOC, WannaCry activity on this host, and there are they will provide you a status description or the summary description of that incident, resolution, and MITRE tactics and techniques. So another thing to highlight in our MDR is in mapping of a MITRE attack framework. So a MITRE attack framework is very helpful when dealing with advanced persistent threats or targeted attacks. For the rest of the findings in our ransomware attack scenario, so these are the hash detected. And this hash, we can report it or we can check it with our threat intelligence. So basing on our threat intelligence, it will provide you additional information. And with the example I provide are detection names. So it will not only provide detection names, it also provide IP addresses, partnered with IP address, located IP addresses. So in my example, I just provided the detection names of this located hash. So in relation to MDR, in relation to EDR, we can still improve the incident investigation. So we have different threat intel services that we open up to our clients. So we have sample is or common is our threat lookup and cloud sandbox. So threat lookup and cloud sandbox are our threat intel services and tools that can be used for incident investigation. So another example I provide is from threat lookup. So this morning, one of my partner just received an email, suspicious email, and I checked it on my threat lookup. So basing on the domain itself, it is good, but there is an not uncategorized IP addresses, a DNS resolution for that domain. So I recorded that one, and I performed threat lookup on this specific IP address. So I just blurred out the IP address. And when we come up, there are files or malwares related to these IP addresses or to this specific IP address. And with that, we come up that it was detected, can be detected, or known. It is a known signature from our threat intelligence. So very threat lookup and Cloud Sandbox are two of our threat intel services that can help our SOC or even our security team on improving their incident investigation or for validating threats. So what are the information we can gather here? The hash, URL, and domains that are related to this attack, IP addresses related to this attack, threat names or detection names, file paths, and Cloud Sandbox, integration with Cloud Sandbox. So here's another example from Cloud Sandbox. So for Cloud Sandbox, we upload the file for analysis. So for analysis of file, yes. So these are sample results. So out of this analyzed file, there's a numerous result of malware. So a sample for this one is from WannaCry ransomware. These are the attack spread path. You can also see it or the execution map in our threat Cloud Sandbox. Then test screenshots or evidences of an attack. So these screenshots came from our test virtual machines. So in improving our incident investigations, aside from using our integrated endpoint and MDR, we can still improve the incident investigation to our threat lookup and Cloud Sandbox. The differentiator. So I call this as differentiator. So what makes threat intelligence intelligent? So there have been multiple debates on what is more important. Is it more important to pass all the requirements, to pass all the features of a product, or more features much better, or the improvement on the detection? So for this one, the differentiator is we make our threat intelligence more intelligent compared to others. So we have different resources such as our Kaspersky security network, web crawlers, bot farms, spam traps, etc., open source intelligence, our partners, and different sensors. And these are handled and filtered by our great team or our security specialist, the advanced persistent research team from the great team, our Kaspersky SOC, red team, and ICS. So that makes up our threat intelligence more intelligent. So we also fight or avoid the false positives. So one way of it is by making or using our APT research teams. So to come up with our threat intelligence that can be used by our customer. So another thing is we also provide a good threat intelligence partnered with our endpoint security for more improved detection rate. Then integrated related to threat intelligence or part of our threat intelligence is our threat data feeds. So using our threat data feed services, we can enhance your existing security controls. So let's take an example for your SIEM. So you know that your SIEM is it can monitor real-time attacks and events within our infrastructure using their built-in signatures and threat indicators. So the key term here are threat indicators, built-in threat indicators. And somehow these threat indicators might overload your SIEM, or it might not be enough to detect more sophisticated threats. So we can improve the intelligence or the capabilities when it comes to threat indicators using our threat data feeds. We have different threat data feeds coming from our threat intelligence to further improve your existing SIEM. We can provide them, we can feed them with IP reputation, hash feed, URL, ransomware, APT, vulnerability, and IoT whitelisting feeds. So we can share these threat data feeds to improve your existing security controls. So why choose Kaspersky? So Kaspersky, one of the most tested, most awarded. From 2013 to 2020, we always place on the top 3 detection when it comes to detection and performance rate from different independent testers such as A/B tests, A/B comparatives. Kaspersky quality confirmed by MITRE ATT&CK evaluation. Another thing is our good results from Gartner Peer Insights from 2017 up to 2021. So we are included in the customer's choice, having a good score or average score of 4.9 among EDR solutions. Okay, so to end my talk, my presentation, I will mention words that will summarize all the things that I discussed and to help you with your how to get a proper solution on your security infrastructure. First is choose the solution that doesn't only satisfy, so sorry for the grammatical error, satisfy your requirements, but also your resources. So that's what I'm mentioning for this whole period of my talk, that it is not always the best or the products with the most features, but you also see to check what solution will bestly suit both of your requirements and also your resources. So example, you don't need to go for a full XDR if you don't have these resources. And if you prioritize on improving the detection rate of your endpoint security rather than having the XDR, you might go with endpoint security and sandbox first, right? So choose the solution that satisfy your requirements, but also satisfy your resources or qualify your resources. Multi-layer defense is the key. So I've been saying that integrated endpoint is very good protection to our endpoint protection platform. Then with integrated endpoint, you will have a multi-layer defense. So what I'm saying is there might be some solutions that have really good performance on this particular product, but they don't have another layer of protection for this product, for this device. And because not everything is 100% secured, there must be another layer of security for you to have a better protection or prevention to your to different threats. Third is a weak endpoint protection platform solution. Endpoint protection platform solution will destroy the value of an EDR. Very important to take note that even though you have the best EDR, you have your EDR is the best performing, but your partnered endpoint security is not good, is weak, then you will not fully utilize your EDR, or the value of your EDR will not be used properly. So it must be both good. You have a good endpoint protection platform, at the same time a good endpoint detection and response tool that is applicable to your resources. Endpoint protection is not dead. Endpoint protection platform on anti-malware will continue to develop and evolve. So there might be emerging technologies from others, but I mentioned endpoint security. I considered is as a foundation. It will always stay there. It will always continue to develop and evolve. So part of evolving our endpoint protection is of course our EDR, our sandbox, our MDR. So it will continue to develop and evolve. So in short, invest on endpoint protection platform. Performance and features. So there might be when I'm dealing with client, there was always a feature or apple to apple comparison features, but sometimes the performance part is not focused one. It's not focused. So what I'm saying is your endpoint security must not always, or your other solutions must not always focus on the features, but also on the performance. Example, its capability to detect or its primary job. Sometimes we forget that your endpoint security or your integrated endpoint, its primary job is to stop threats, not block your website, not do this and do that, but the primary job is the protection against threat, and that relates to your performance. So we must have a good complete features, at the same time good performance. Then lastly, complexity isn't always the answer. We don't need to always compare with others. Others, they have these complex solutions, they have this, they have that. But are these solutions applicable to me? So complexity is not always the answer. Because if you have a good or a complex solutions, a complete solution, but you don't know how to use it properly, then you will not be able to fully use that solution into its full capability. So complexity isn't always the answer, but choosing the right solution for your resources is the one. So thank you. That's it. Thank you for listening to my talk.